Whoever identified Songutu Magassa as a target to come to West Ham United, hats off to them. Whether it was Carl McCauley or whether it was Maximilian Hahn or whoever it may have been, then give that man a pat on the back because what a performance Songutu Magassa put in against Man United on Thursday night. Look, I've liked him from day one. I know a lot of people were sort of a little bit flaky about him. A lot of fans were a bit flaky about him when he first arrived. But it takes time for a footballer to acclimatise to a new league. He's only 22 years of age. He's come from the French league. Yeah, he's played for Monaco. But the Premier League, as we all know, is a very different beast. And Magassa, in every game that I've seen him play so far, has actually excelled, and he's gotten better and better. And for the money that we paid for him, 17 odd million pounds, young. I mean, look at that midfield now. All of a sudden, we've got a midfield at West Ham United of two 22-year-olds and a 21-year-old, Fernandes, Magassa, and Potts. And they did exceptionally well on Thursday night. When you try and ask me who is man of the match against Man United, I'd first say to you Magassa, and then immediately I'd say, well, actually Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then I might go on to say, well, Todibo, and I might go on to say, well, actually Potts. Every player played their part in that draw on Thursday night, and it was superb. It was fantastic. But Magassa, for me, I think is going to be a shining light at West Ham United. And it asks the big question. It asks the question when on Sunday, we know, Nuno has already said, we know that Lucas Paqueta is going to come straight back into the team against Brighton at the weekend. But when you look at what happened against Bournemouth and what happened against Man United, actually the Man United draw was even better than the Bournemouth one because we should have won the Bournemouth game. And in fact, I still think we should have maybe won the Man United game. But, I was told I was being greedy to ask for 3 points. But when you look at what happened in those two games without Lucas Paqueta, and by having the likes of Magassa in there and Potts and Fernandes controlling the midfield, we were under a cosh for a while, but in the first half, for the first 20, 25, 30 minutes, we were in the game, and then of course, Man United, they got their, they settled down and they got control. And we were quite glad that halftime came when halftime came, because I think Man United were beginning to sort of take more and more control. But you can't take anything away from that performance on Thursday night. And you can't take anything away from Songutu Magassa, for not only getting this goal, but for being a real, a couple of fans said after the show when we did the post-match review, that's the kind of the Billy Bonds type of efforts that came from Magassa, because he was all over the gaff. He was getting his foot in. So was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So were the others. But getting tackles in. What's been happening in the this season is like we've not gone challenging for the 50-50s. We've been a bit timid. Magassa has gone, well, it's my job. I'm a defensive midfielder. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get in their faces. And that's exactly what he did. So what happens now? On Sunday when Lucas Paqueta's back, who's going to drop out of this team? Look, the transformation in some of the players since Nuno arrived is pretty much amazing. Look at the performance from Jean-Claude Todibo. Absolutely, the money we paid, 32 million pounds, all of a sudden we're beginning to think, now I know what all the fuss was about when Todibo first arrived. It's taken him a while. It's taken him 3 managers to get there, but all of a sudden we're beginning to see something. Alphonse Areola, much maligned. We need a new keeper. We need a new keeper. And yet, Alphonse Areola has begun to look better and better and better. And we can only be down, I said this a few weeks ago, can only be down to the goalkeeping coach that Nuno has brought in, Rui Barbosa, got to be credited for what he's done with Alphonse Areola. And again, I've read a few comments in social media. Oh, Areola should be catching the ball, not punching it. There's one photo where there's something like about 10 players around Areola. There's another cat. That's Sushi. Didn't notice Ollie, the black cat that was there the other day, but there's another one. Don't knock that thing down, Sushi. Yeah, don't look at it. Leave it alone. Anyway, So you got to look at Areola and you got to think to yourself, it's got to be credit to the goalkeeping coach that's come in, because that's the point I was going to make. Apparently, there's one photo saying, we should be catching the ball. There's a photo showing around 10 players around him, and he got to the ball first. So credit to him. Fernandes, I said he was too expensive at £40 million. He's proving me wrong, because that role in the middle of the park that Lucas Paqueta vacated. I'm going to talk about the slight change in transformation in formation in a minute. But playing a slightly more advanced, I know he was more to the left, but playing a slightly more advanced role, Fernandes excelled. He didn't look out of place. And then finally, we've got a youthful team. 5 of those players in the starting 11 were 25 or under. 5 of those players were 25 years of age or under. If you include Mavropanos, who's 27 years of age, 6 of those players on the pitch that started on Thursday night were in their 20s. Unbelievable. That wouldn't have been heard of over the last couple of years. Look, and the one thing that Nuno has done, he doesn't care about price tags. He's dropped Max Kilman. He did it for the right reasons. And it shows a ruthlessness. When we heard about the team news coming out, we heard that Fulkrug and Guilherme and Igor were not even on the bench. Now, some are suggesting that they were rested for Sunday. And that may well be. That may well be that they're rested for Sunday. But I look and I think, really? Guilherme, why does he need a rest? He's young. He's hardly played. He's only got bits of, cameo roles here and there. So he doesn't necessarily need a rest. Fulkrug, well, yeah, he needs a rest because of the 5 minutes he gave us the other day. And Igor, he's hardly played at all. So when I think about people suggesting that they've been rested, they may well be in the squad on Sunday. But when I think about they may have been rested, I'm not so sure. Because what Nuno did was, not only did he drop Kilman to the bench again, he brought a whole load of youngsters with him. He had a whole load of youngsters, and he gave Mahamadou Kante his Premier League start. I mean, again, under Potter, who we thought was a man who would excel with having academy players around him. Under Potter, you wouldn't have seen Mahamadou Kante playing. Under Moyes, you wouldn't have seen a youngster come in, etc., or be given in important roles. I take that back. Moyes did bring on youngsters, but in dead rubbers, games that weren't, were meaningless. Whereas Nuno brought in Mahamadou Kante at a crucial time of the game. And he said, go out there and do what you can. Now, I've also heard, or I've read, that the subs were negative. How were they negative? Andrew Irving got the corner over to get us back level. So there was an end result. Now, Souček's role. Now, a lot of people are again complaining, square pegs in round holes and all that sort of stuff. Thomas Souček was never, ever going to be asked to run the channel. It wasn't about Thomas, go and do your best right wing impersonation. Thomas Souček was there to disrupt, and he did it absolutely perfectly. There was a game plan. You keep them occupied on that side, Thomas. We'll deal with the middle through Magassa, through Potts, etc. And slightly on the left was Fernandes, and it absolutely worked. And then it allowed, by having Souček on the right-hand side, it allowed I've forgotten his name. It allowed Bowen to become almost like a roaming number 10, just behind Callum Wilson, offering Callum Wilson support. It worked, people. It absolutely worked. Should we have won? Yeah, I do. I think we should have won. There was a moment right at the end of the game where Bowen had the ball, and we were right dead in line with the angle that he was at, and we saw this gap, and we thought, well, he's going to take a shot, but he did what players do. He squared it to see if anything comes of it. But if they'd had a shot, we would have won that game. Look, all in all, I think it was a positive performance. There was an awful lot to take away from that game, awful lot of positives. And I know people are going, oh, respect, how many times do we say respect the draw? But when you're playing away from home and we expected to go up to Manchester, and we weren't really looking forward to it. We just, especially after the game against Liverpool, last weekend, we just thought we were just going to get absolutely hammered. Man United are beginning to find some form. They beat Crystal Palace in the last game, etc. And we thought, well, this might be a bit of a difficult game. But the endeavour, the passion, the pride in the way that the players. I mean, literally, when the final whistle went, about 4 or 5 players just dropped to the floor because of the effort that they put in against Man United. And all credit to them. They did us proud. The fans themselves, I've got to say, from start to finish, the fans did not stop singing the Billy Bonds song, etc., etc. Kept going and going and going. The only time we heard the Man United fans singing was when they scored. And then there was a little bit of a, they got, they started singing a little bit more after that, but they soon died out. Because West Ham fans just drowned out any of the noise that was coming, or the little noise that was coming from Man United fans. Look, it was superb. I've said it. I'll say it several times. It was a superb performance. Yes, okay, I get it. A draw is not enough because we're still in the bottom 3, but so much to take from that. So much. But now all eyes is on Sunday. What is he going to do? Paqueta, we know, is going to be back. Now, my gut tells me that he's going to drop Souček. It's going to be a shame that he will, because you can't see him dropping Potts or Magassa or Fernandes, those 3 young players in the middle of the park. Wow. I mean, when was the last time we said we had a dynamic midfield? We've now got a dynamic midfield. I hope Paqueta just knuckles down, and just put him far forward, just take him, or put him out on the right-hand side and let Bowen do the roaming role as he did against Man United. Now, a bit of a concern. Bowen got a really bad knock. He was limping quite a bit, and he might not make Sunday's game. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there, because Bowen did pick up a knock. He was limping at the end of the game as well. So fingers crossed he's going to be okay. But so much to take from that game. So just fantastic overall, and it was a journey worth making. After we thought, it was going to be horrible, you're going to go up there, started to rain again, and we thought, here we go, it's going to be one of those away trips that we just wish we hadn't bothered with. But in all honesty, for me, it was a journey worth making. We did ourselves proud. The fans did their bit. The players did their bit. I can't think of one player. Even Callum Wilson played till the 80-odd minute or whatever, and even he was still putting effort in until he was pulled off. Nothing negative to say about any of it. And Songutu Magassa, like I said, if it is Maximilian Hahn who identified Songutu Magassa, give him all the resources he needs to go out and find ourselves a few more players like him. But because, boy, he's the real deal. And people are talking about, some players, aren't getting their chance. Guilherme is a prime example. Oh, he's just not getting his chance. Well, I don't know. You look at, you compare him to Magassa, different roles, I know, but you compare him to Magassa. Magassa, every time he's been on the pitch, he's shown something. He's shown that he's improving and improving. Guilherme doesn't have that for me, I'm afraid. Maybe that's why he was dropped. Let's see if he's back in the lineup at the weekend, or certainly on the bench. But Mahamadou Kante, he showed in the cameo role that he played on Thursday night. He showed a little bit of like, this is what I'm about. And that's, you start to think to yourself that this is now showing what these players are about. And Magassa, fantastic. Wan-Bissaka, last-ditch challenges, one in the box, which scared me a little bit. Todibo did one as well, scared me a little bit. But then we found out that the Man United players were diving. Well, what a surprise. Man United players diving. Look, I can't praise this team enough. I really can't. And long may it continue, because any more performances like that will give me a lot of hope that we will not only pull away from the bottom 3, but sort of get up. We're not going to finish high, but if we finish in, just below mid-table, something like that, then considering the bad start we had in the season, then fair play. Look, a couple of shout outs. Nick and his son, Matthew, hello to you. Nigel with the tash, I hope you're away. You're well. Jeff, who said hello, thank you, and everyone else who said hello. During the game, after the game, in the pub afterwards, etc. So thank you to you all. So Let's see what happens on Sunday. I think Magassa is an absolute revelation. If it's Maximilian Hahn that's identified him, give him the resources to continue finding those gems. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see what happens now with Paqueta. We've had 2 games without him, Bournemouth and Man United, both draws. So when he comes back, the thing with Paqueta is what we did on Thursday night is we got the ball moving quicker. We got the ball moving fast. We weren't procrastinating. Paqueta likes to, get the ball, look up, look around, beat a player, etc. We want him to move faster. The transformation that Nuno is having on players like Todibo, Areola, and various others it's green shoots of something better to come. We finally got a youthful team. We've got, like I said, we had 5 players who started who were 25 or under. If you include Dinos, 6 players who are under 30 in their 20s. Fantastic. And like I said, Nuno doesn't seem to care about your price tag. If he doesn't think you're performing, whether you're 10 million or 30 million or 40 million pounds, you're going to be on the bench. And it's good to see Nuno doing that as well. Roll on Sunday. I'll do a preview about that game on Saturday. Looking forward to doing that. And have a good rest of the evening. Have a good Friday evening and a good beginning to the weekend.